Assalamu alaikum everybody, this is Arabic teacher Sam and a very warm welcome back to the latest video tutorial. It's going to be a bit casual today, so excuse me a little bit if I'm drinking water throughout the video and stuff. I've done some really long GCSE Arabic videos, but I wanted to do this evening because I just think it's so important. It's been on my mind for a long time, and I think a lot of Arabic language teachers are failing their students and are failing people who have aspirations to learn the Arabic language because the Arabic language is just vast, it's huge, and a lot of people who would like to learn the Arabic language, I see a lot of people in Facebook groups, I follow a few Facebook groups for learning Arabic, and people just don't have a clue, unfortunately, how to approach Arabic, and if they have certain objectives, they're not really guided into the right types of courses or the right types of information, and so I was thinking about how to deliver this, and how to deliver this in a really concise way that would sort of be accessible and understandable to a lot of people. So that's what we're going to do over the next sort of half an hour is what I'd like to bring to you. And, we'll go through all of the different types of, jargon and labels for different types of Arabic, like different dialects, and what is Amiyya, and what is classical, and what is Quranic Arabic, and what is modern standard Arabic, and how you might go about learning each of those. And so that's what we're going to do over the next sort of half an hour or so. I'd like to give you a real good overview, a real good kind of broad map of the Arabic language and learning it. So that's what we'll do, inshallah. So that's how we'll begin. So I thought it'd make a lot of sense for us to begin with the way everyone begins wanting to learn the Arabic language. They start with, I want to learn Arabic. And, the most important question to ask yourself when you're at that point is, why? Why do you want to learn Arabic? Okay? That's the important thing for you to ask yourself, and there's a whole number of different reasons, and it's important to start with that because that will kind of guide how you're going to learn Arabic and where you're going to learn Arabic and with whom you're going to learn Arabic. So that's the best place to start. So if we run through some really common reasons why someone might want to learn Arabic, so I'm going to write quite small. I'll zoom in on it if I see when I'm editing it that it's a little bit too small. But let's start with some reasons. So a really big one, okay? Quran. Okay? Allahumma barik, alhamdulillah. A lot of people, they want to learn Arabic from the Quran, yeah? So the Quran, that's a good one, okay? Some people have more broadly, like Islamic reasons, right? So it's not only for the Quran. They want to learn for learning hadith. They want to learn for reading Islamic poetry. They want to learn for learning the Arabic language as a science within itself, for the students of knowledge, for the tulab al-ilm. The Arabic language is a science. You should learn nahu and sarf and science, Islamic sciences like that. So those would come in here, yeah? What about, there might be, you want to travel, yeah? You want to travel. I'm going to put travel and holiday. Not holiday. Okay, travel and holiday, that's another one. Maybe work, a lot of people, they want a little piece of that Gulf oil money. A lot of people are doing my degree when I was studying at university. A lot of the people wanted a little piece of that pie. Yes, they wanted to learn Arabic for work. They wanted to be part of Arab banking or the Arab oil industry or whatever. So work is another one. Sometimes it's friends, right? Sometimes you want to learn it for speaking to friends, or some people want to learn Arabic just so they can go to their Lebanese restaurant and they can say please and thank you to their waiter or whatever, or sometimes it's as low level and social as that. So friends / relationship or loved one, right? Okay, another big one, which was a really big one for me, is literature. Literature, people are interested in poetry. Like myself, I wanted to learn Arabic for literature. I was really interested in pre-Islamic poetry even, and then the whole journey of Arabic poetry all the way up to the modern day. So people might be interested in literature. And then at the end, just for argument's sake, people might be interested in music, right? Arabic music or something like that. First thing I'd say, music's haram. So just go back to the beginning and then choose any of the others. I'm not going to give you any advice on what you should do to understand Arabic music. Music's haram, so you just return back to that. Music / any haram stuff. Music or any haram stuff, You just go all the way back to the beginning and you pick one of the others, right? So, okay, so whatever of those you're interested in, right? Like, those are pretty much the main reasons that I've ever heard. Yeah, I mean, perhaps I'll do a similar video like this, but like on my Facebook. Go over and like my Facebook, my Arabic Slam Facebook, and follow it. And maybe one day we'll do a live video, and I'll take some other suggestions from you, and we'll run through this again, kind of the map of the Arabic language. So, when I say travel and holiday, really it could be to a number of countries. It could be Egypt, could be Jordan, could be Morocco. Could be could be a whole bunch of places. Let me just put Tunisia. Yeah, popular tourist destination, right? Just so we've got some variety on there. Morocco, Egypt, Jordan, Tunisia. Okay. So let's have the how. Okay. Let's have the how. So there are obviously respective sciences for each of these, right? If you just want to understand the Quran. If you just want to understand the Quran, really, you don't need to learn the whole Arabic language. Really, like if you want to be able to understand the Quran directly, you do, of course. You need to study it as a broad language. You need to understand what those words really meant. But the most direct way of doing it, there is already a science for that. It's called tafsir. A lot of you have probably heard of it. Tafsir really just means explanation. It's just increasing your understanding of what the Quran means. In the Quran, there aren't conversations a whole lot like كيف الحال أنا بخير الحمد لله. Like, there's not like to and fro conversations like that. So for purely understanding the Quran, if you were only to do that, I don't encourage it. Like, in the studies of Islam, studying the Quran or having any authority to speak on the Quran is very, very, very high up there. But if you just wanted to understand the Quran, but not have like a broad understanding of the religion, which is wrong, you shouldn't do that, but if you were to, tafsir is all that really is. For Islamic studies purposes, this is what we'd call classical Arabic, or fusha, right? This is what we're talking about when we say fusha. There's a whole lot of this misunderstanding around what fusha is, but fusha is really just eloquent Arabic, really. It differs slightly from modern standard Arabic. But if we come next onto your travel, right? People who want to go travelling. In this place, if you just want to go on holiday and chat to the people, you don't have any interest really in reading books, all you need is something called عامية. عامية. Or dialects. And, each of these countries has their own respective عامية. And they're almost unintelligible from each other. Like, especially Moroccan, right? Like their own dialect is called Darija, and it's almost separate from Lehge Misriya, from Egyptian dialects. It's almost completely separate from them. But they're both sort of the children of Arabic. They're both the children, but mixed with their own local, either Berber languages or, Amazighi languages or whatever. Like languages that came before Arabic, the people who live in Libya before the Arabs came, they had their own language and stuff, Amazighi, before the Arabs came. So they're mixed up kind of with that. And these aren't really written languages. Amiyya and dialects, they're not written languages. They're only spoken languages. Except on like social media, just like English, right? Like on social media, Egyptians will write Egyptian Amiyya, and I mean, tafsir is not a spoken language, right? It's literally just a science for understanding the Quran. Classical Arabic and Fusha, these days, it's only really a written language. Other than people like myself who make a conscious effort to speak it. But it's not a native language to anybody anymore. Unless, as the legends have it, there are like Bedouins living in the desert who speak like that every day. But maybe it's just the legends that have that. For work, right? If you're interested in work, you're probably talking about what we call MSA, Modern Standard Arabic. I'm just going to check the timer's still going. Sometimes my camera switches off by itself. No, we're fine. Okay, we're talking about MSA, okay? We're talking about Modern Standard Arabic. And Modern Standard Arabic it's classical Arabic, It's like Fusha, but it's modernized, right? It's modern and it's been standardized. I mean, it was standardized back then. I mean, the earliest books of grammar for this stuff was written, shortly after the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, during the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu an. Most of the Arabic grammar was codified then, and there are very, very, very famous grammarians like Khalil ibn Ahmed and Sibawayh, who codified grammar way, way back then. But modern Standard Arabic is like a correct, international, standardized version of Arabic, which isn't the same as Arameya. It's not the same as Arameya, but it's like a modernized version of Classical Arabic, is really what it is. So that's MSA, that's Modern Standard Arabic, and that's both written and spoken. That is a written language. That is what's written in all of your newspapers, in all of your important documents, all of your legal documents, all political speeches. MSA, and it's like a professional working language, right? So for most work environments, you're probably going to need to know MSA. You're probably going to need to know Modern Standard Arabic, and then if you want a social life in any Arab country, you'll at least need to understand Arameya. Like, really, I have to force myself to speak Arameya. Like, I don't really speak Arameya, but I understand it. Like, I lived in Palestine for a year, and I lived in Egypt for a little while, and, I understand their Arameya, right? But I make a conscious effort to speak, because there's no need for me to speak like them, because they know I'm not an Egyptian. Do you know what I mean? They know I'm not a Palestinian. So, I'll speak like a foreigner. It doesn't make any difference. I don't feel any less accepted or whatever. I don't need to try to make out like I am one of them. I'm another Muslim who's a guest in their land, to learn their language and stuff. And, so I choose to speak like Standard Arabic, even though I understand Arameya. With friends, right, okay, friends, and if you just want to have like a little bit of chat with a waiter, right, you need this, okay, you need Arameya. This is probably what you're going to need. If you want to say a few little, off the cuff, little phrases to a waiter or to a friend or something like that, you'll need little bits from Arameya or from dialects. But not even, just Arameya and dialects. You might actually go, all the way to, slang. It might even be, slang stuff, which is, what's the difference between dialect and slang? There's not really a dialect. It's just less formal, I suppose. You could speak to someone you don't know in Arameya, in an Arab country, but in slang terms and stuff, which exist in Arameya, you would only really use to your friends and stuff. So, so you would seek out slang terms that you would use with your friends and stuff, or with a waiter who you knew at your local restaurant or whatever. Literature. Literature comes in a whole bunch of different ways. I mean, literature, depending on where you go, we have a whole timeline of, about 500 BC all the way up to the modern day. So we run through classical Arabic, we run through MSA, and then, to a real lesser extent, there are types of poetry in Arameya. I've never been interested in that, but there are types of poetry and stuff, and very, very modern literature in Arameya. But it's I don't really even know about that. Music and the haram stuff generally is in Arameya as well. But there's no bit coming down here. You just go back to the beginning and choose one of the others, mate. Okay, so that is generally what we're talking about the types of Arabic, and whenever we're talking about a dialect, we're talking about Arameya. Whenever we're talking about a program for learning classical Arabic like mine, or like our brother Sa'ad ibn Mansour, his Arabic code in the Knowledge College, that's talking about classical Arabic. If you're talking about the Sharia programs, probably talking about classical Arabic. I mean, probably the closest out of those to being modern standard Arabic is probably mine, because I have modern vocab and for modern usage and stuff as well. So, tafsir is the sort of stuff that the Bayinist used to do. I don't know how qualified their teachers are to do that. I know that I don't know if they're scholars and stuff among them, but yeah, that's what they do. And they're way more famous and more important. Mufassirin, Ibn Kathir is obviously famous, and At-Tabari, he has a big tafsir as well. There are many other tafsirs as well. So, so And then something else I wanted to mention is like academic qualifications, like GCSE, A level, degree level, are closest to this one. You know, so if I were to put GCSE here, A level, you know, degree level, you know, like academic qualifications are closest to being in this, in MSA. This is kind of the one they're closest to, unless you were to choose modules in Islamic studies or in Quranic Arabic or in an Aramiya or in Arabic literature, you know. Unless you were to choose modules in those, GCSE and A-level are definitely in a work-centric Arabic framework, and as is the degree for the most part. So that's where that kind of belongs. So what's the next question? You know, we've talked about how, where, sorry. So we've talked about why. We've talked about how. I think it's pretty best to talk about where next. Okay? Where should you do each of these? Where should you go to get each of these? I'll have some water. You could drink standing up, by the way. It's not haram to drink standing up. Yeah, okay. So, where? Where can you learn each of these things? Do you need to go to an Arab country, really, is what I'm talking about? Do you need to actually leave and go somewhere else or enroll in a particular program to learn each of these? Tafsir, it is better to have a teacher. The answer is anywhere. Anywhere you can go, but you should have a teacher. Yeah. Any of the Islamic studies, you should have a teacher. Like, unless you live somewhere really remote. Like, I live in Cornwall, and like we don't have a sheikh down here in Cornwall, really. Like, so there are online options, but you should always just make sure that the person that you're learning from teaches Islam, you know, بفهم السلف الصالحين, like in accordance with the understanding of the Salaf. You know, you should make sure that your teacher teaches like that. And you should always have a teacher, really. Like, you shouldn't just be left to your own devices. Some jahil miskeen like myself, or like most of you guys who don't really have a lot of knowledge of Islam, we shouldn't be really the people to be opening up a book of tafsir and you know, all by ourselves. It's best to have a teacher for things like that. Islamic, likewise, it's the same. Yeah, same thing. Those two, the same, really. Anywhere, and you should have a teacher. But there are obviously amazing opportunities for both of these, you know, to study in other places. You know, there are so many amazing Islamic institutions where you can go abroad to study. I mean, in Egypt there's Al-Fajr, where you can go. I know someone who studied Arabic there in Egypt, and then obvious ones in Saudi Arabia, like Al-Qura in Mecca, and Jami'atul Medina, obviously in Medina. And there's others, you know, there are other places where you can be sponsored to go and study Arabic. You know, you can be sponsored to go and study Arabic, and you can study the Quran in those places too. Cool. Aramiya. There are books, right? There are books, and there are tapes and stuff for you to listen to teach you Aramiya. But in my experience, very, very few people, if any, have mastered Arami without going to the country. Okay, so I think we need to just put abroad for this one. For Arami, classical and Fusha anywhere as well. Like I feel like I became pretty fluent in Fusha without going to an Arab country. And in fact, I even thought it was a setback. You pick up a lot of bad habits when you go to an Arab country. Like I ended up speaking worse Fusha when I spent a year in Palestine. So that anywhere as well, you know, all three of these. You can study anywhere, but you should have a teacher. It's best for you to have a teacher. MSA, likewise, anywhere and with a teacher. You know. Or actually, I don't even know if you do need a teacher so much. Teacher is less so, I think, for... having a teacher is less so for modern standard Arabic. Because there are really, really good resources, there are really good books, and there are like TV channels where you can listen to pick up the accent. You can repeat things that they're saying, and you know, have phrases and speeches just on the tip of your tongue, and you can just reel them off and build up your fluency like that. So you don't necessarily need a teacher, and you can do it anywhere, I think, modern standard Arabic. So I'm going to put a question mark next to having a teacher. Slang, I mean, anywhere but the people. are really important. Because also it varies so much. Like it varies so much from place to place. Like I love learning the Somali language. Like some of you might have seen my Somali language YouTube channel, and Somali would just come in here. It's like slang. It's such an oral language. It's so embedded in an oral tradition that it needs to be learned from the people. Like Somali isn't a language that is confounded to its books. It lives in the people, as do slangs. Cool. Literature. You should have a teacher, I think, really. Books, novels and, books of poetry and stuff. You should have a teacher. I'm just putting this to say that you can do it anywhere and have a teacher. That's what I mean by this. This is kind of the key. You can do it anywhere and you should have a teacher. But you should have a teacher, I think, really, for literature. They're harder to come by. It's hard to come by teachers who can teach you literature. In my experience, like even among people who have like a Mir Saab or an Imam Saab or whatever, who come to their house and teach them the Quran and stuff, very, very few of them even teach Arabic language as a language. Like Quran teachers and stuff, very few of them have Arabic as a language, and even fewer will be able to teach you adab. Very, very few will be able to teach you adab, actually the Arabic literature. I teach a little bit of it, but like I think I'm the only person in the southwest of England who teaches it. So I mean, it's harder to come by, and it's a higher level as well. Really, my honest opinion, and all of my teaching and the programs that I've written are built around this. Is you should start with really, really good classical Arabic. You should start with really, really good classical Arabic, and then from that is the foundations of Arabic. My program is called the Foundations of Arabic. That is the foundations of the Arabic language. And from that, when you've got that, it's very, very easy for you to build an Egyptian house, or for you to build a professional house, or for you to build a Moroccan house, or, for you to build a classical or a modern house. Once you've got the foundations of Arabic, it's easy to do those things. So that's the point. Cool, what have we got? Why? How? Where should you study these things? The last question, really, the last one of those kind of interrogatives or interrogatives, I don't know how you say it, I don't know which one's the English one or which one's the American one, is who. Who? Who should we study from? Also, who are you? Are you the right person to be studying this, and at what time? And so when I say who, I am talking about who as in what teacher, and who as in you as well. So, we've said here you need a teacher for tafsir, right? You need to make sure that they're qualified. Tafsir, understanding of the Quran, is right at the top, right? And exactly the same with anything Islamic. You should have a teacher, okay? And it should be someone who's qualified, someone who's studied for a number of years. And generally, I think be aware. Don't dismiss always, but be aware of just people who are younger. You shouldn't take me as an authority on anything Islamic. I'll say that explicitly. Like, there are people who are far, far, far more qualified than myself. I'll direct you towards a sheikh whose videos I watch, called Sheikh Abdul Rahman Hassan. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. But so that's an example of an individual who is qualified to teach some of these things. In terms of some texts, actually, you might have heard of a text called Al-Ajrumiyyah. It's probably the most famous grammar text. That would come in classical Arabic. Ajrumiyyah, I'll put Ajru. Yeah, that would come in classical Arabic. It is also an Islamic text in a way. You learn that when you're dealing with Nahu. Nahu is a field of classical Arabic. If you've heard of Nahu before. Nahu and Sarf. And Balagha are three very, very important sciences of Arabic grammar, and they're all within classical Arabic. They're less important when you're learning for a work purpose and would be learning modern standard Arabic. But if you're learning classical Arabic, the field of Nahu, which deals with grammar, is a classical science. Sarf, which deals with morphology, the shapes of words, is a classical science. Balagha, the science of rhetoric or eloquence, is a classical science. So those are all terms that would have come in here. And Al-Ajrumiyyah is one that focuses on Nahu. is a text that focuses on nahu. As is, if some of this is gibberish, just ignore it. Like get a cup of tea or something while I'm talking about them, because it might go over the head of some people. Another one, Alfiya ibn Malik, nahu. Yeah, as a text of nahu. Good, really nice. So who need a qualified teacher for either of these Islamic sciences? You know, for anything Islamic study, anything Quranic. A'amiyya, you don't need a teacher as such. You just need people. You just need people to listen to and to repeat and stuff like that. For modern standard Arabic, I think you need a teacher, really. And it can be a teacher who Arabs themselves can teach that. And in fact, actually, I think this is an important distinction. Actually, you should have a teacher, and they should be an Arab, in my opinion. In my opinion, I don't think you should employ someone like me, who's a non-Arab, who's learnt Arabic, to teach you Amiyya. I don't think that. I don't think that a non-Arab can 99.9% of the time be qualified to teach that, or get good enough to teach it. My advice for learning classical Arabic might actually be to have a non-Arab teach you. It's pretty brave to say that, but I mean, you know, so some of those names of, you know, grammar scholars that I mentioned earlier, Sibawayh, for example, he's a non-Arab, he's a Persian, you know, and like, you know, the field of Arabic grammar has been well looked after by the Somalis even as well. So non-Arabs for a very, very long time have been preserved. Sorry guys, I had a little bit of disruption there with the camera. It's a bit longer than most of my normal videos, so the camera's not up to it. No, it's my bad. So yeah, I was talking about how you know, non-Arabs have been kind of preserving Arabic grammar for a very, very long time. Like, it's not, the Arabic grammar hasn't been owned, the Arabic language hasn't been owned by the Arabs, it's been owned by the Muslims. You know, the Arabic language is the language of the Muslims. It's not just the language of the Arabs who are ethnically, you know, born into perhaps being closer descendants to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But even that's not true. You know, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has descendants all over the place. So really, when I'm talking about who, in the fields of classical Arabic, it might even better have a non-Arab sometimes. When you're in the earlier stages, because obviously a non-Arab, like what a lot of my students find is that, because I've been through the experience myself of being a non-Arab, having to learn Arabic, they can relate to it more. But for Ami, you definitely need an Arab to teach you, I think. And then in modern standard Arabic, this one, either, you know, I think you know, Arabs and non-Arabs can both teach that, but they need to be qualified. Like, all of these should be given, you know, the disclaimer that they should all be qualified, even when I'm saying these, you know, there's other things about whether it's better to have someone who's a native speaker or a non-native speaker. Because I was going to do a video a little while ago about like a native Arabic speaker versus a non-Arab who's learnt Arabic as a teacher. But really, this is the difference. We're talking about different things. Like, when you're talking about Aramiya, yeah, 100%. Like you should have a non-Arab. You should have an Arab, to teach you that. But when it comes down to the Arabic language as a science, I think non-Arabs can be just as capable of teaching it. This stuff, slang, I mean, I'm not even going to say just your mate. You know, it should be an Arab who's your mate. You know, your Arab mate is your teacher, is the person, is the who should be teaching you. Yeah, then literature. Who? Just someone just academically qualified. I mean, just someone who has the quals. Someone who has the quals is the only thing that's important. So that is kind of, you know, that's kind of a map. That's a broad overview of how to approach learning Arabic and what to expect from all of its respective fields. You know, just a quick run through of what we did, just to round off with. So I thought it was wise to start with, you know, why learn Arabic? Because when you approach learning Arabic, that's of course where you are. You start with, you know, you're the person who's saying, I want to learn Arabic. So we think why. You know, went through a list of reasons why an individual might want to learn Arabic, and then the respective paths that they'll need to take, and where these different types of Arabic fit into that map. So we encountered what classical Arabic is and what modern standard Arabic is, what Aramiya is, or what dialects of Arabic are. You know, and then kind of had the opportunity just to break it down into where those fit. You know, where do they fit? what the role of modern standard Arabic is in an Arab society. He said in politics, in newspapers, in official work documents and things like that would be in modern standard Arabic. And if you're interested in learning more things about the religion and history and classical Arabic, will need to serve you. When I talk about over here classical Arabic with Islamic, it's very close to literature, really. Like literature, adab is a science within Islamic studies. So they're very close actually, but I did think it was worth putting as something separate, because if you're interested in literature generally, like I am, you might not think of a novel or travel writing, like the Rihla of Ibn Battuta or the Rihla of Ibn Jubayr. They'd come in literature, but they're not really, Islamic texts. They're, texts of tarikh, of history, which would probably come under literature rather than Islamic. But literature is in Islam. It is a smaller subgroup of Islamic sciences. And then where can you learn these things? What sort of institutes are there for you to learn these things, and in what countries are they? And perhaps I'll do a video on like a broader kind of view on the dialects, because sometimes there's some confusion of where they cross over. Like if Morocco has the same dialect as like Algeria and Tunisia, it definitely doesn't. Maybe I'll do a video in more detail on that, but the short answer is dialects can vary even more than a country. There's huge variety in the way Arabic is spoken in Palestine. Just Palestine alone is a relatively small Arab country, and yet even within it, you'll have some people who pronounce things all kinds of different ways. I heard the word qahwa, meaning coffee, but pronounced kahwe. I heard it pronounced gahwe. I heard it pronounced a couple of other ways as well, all within one country. So so that is kind of a broad overview. Send me your questions, inshallah. If you guys, throughout that, you were thinking that you wanted to squeeze a question in, I'll do something similar. Like, I'll do a broad overview of learning the Arabic language, but more interactive. I'll do it like a live Facebook video, inshallah. I think that'd be really helpful for a lot of people. And, and that's it. Really look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Get in touch with me. Engage over this stuff if you agreed with me. If you think there was anything that I missed, then that'd be interesting to hear too. And I look forward to catching you guys in the next video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.